guys, it's Chris with Kelly Inspection Services here. Hey, we're out doing an inspection on an old townhouse built back in the early 80s. So we're going over doing electrical inspection. We came across an interesting find here. This panel here, as you can see, the rainbow colored breakers here is rather unique when you see it. You're not going to see, and there's very few panels that are going to look like this, if not any, that are not this exact brand. What makes this panel unique and something that we called out to our client today is this is what we call, it used to be called a brand called Zinsco. Eventually got bought up by Sylvania, so you might see Sylvania GTE, Sylvania Zinsco, but they're all going to look like this with these rainbow colored breakers. The reason we call these out and why we worry about these is because these can be a significant safety hazard. And as we always say, some of our biggest safety concerns in a house is obviously going to be electrical and any potential for fire. We don't want our clients moving in a house that then this could potentially jeopardize them because of its faulty manufacturing. And that's what this panel, the problem with it is. It has several things going on with it. The breakers on it have some issues, sometimes don't always trip. So you might see the external breaker looks like it's trying to trip, but the internal mechanisms that are on the bus bar there, we can't see, haven't tripped. So therefore, when this breaker is supposed to trip to keep a large amount of electricity from going through and causing a fire with an appliance or something, it's not going to do its job. Right? We also find that the higher electrical loads demands in houses today also far outpace what this panel can take as well. So as we see these, most of these are about 40 years old. They're like you saw them predominantly in the early 80s, mid 80s. Since then, there's no new installs of these. But today's electrical demands kind of give this thing some trouble. There's some of the internal wirings. They'll use aluminum wiring, which will start has a tendency to want to rust. You may not be able to see it. It's going to be a lot of internals. The bus bars on them can have some issues. So we see a lot of problems, and it's something that most electricians are going to tell you, if you see one of these, you probably need to replace it. Now, this panel's been working for almost 40 years now, and so there is something to say about that. But all it takes again is that one instance that causing trouble, not dripping when it's supposed to, arcing, and that could cause a fire and harm your family. Another thing we see with these, we have a knockout tab missing, and so there's room for these breakers. They actually have a tendency to want to move around. So when they move around, again, there's any bit of separation off the bus bar where it sits and that breaker, there's a potential for arcing. So if you come across any issues where it looks like it arced, or there's any scorching or extreme heat marks on the inside, right, that's definitely a time that we know that this thing's already failed and that it shouldn't be doing it at all, that we need to replace this. So, in summing it up, again, there's a lot more about these that, we can explain later, but we want you to be aware when you see these rainbow colored breakers, step back for a second, and that red flag should be going off in your head, and probably need to consult an electrician to see the feasibility and possibility of replacing one of these panels with something more updated that's going to keep your family safe, be able to carry the electrical load in your house, and be able to operate with no problems for years to come. All right. Again, I'm Chris with Kelly Inspection Services. Make sure to go subscribe to all our videos. We'll post some more stuff like this here in the future. All right. Thank you.